On this week's edition of Realist History, we're going to talk about minorities in the progressive era, okay? And unfortunately, you're going to see that white progressives who were radically changing this country didn't want to see a lot of those changes for non-whites. And we'll see how non-whites react to that and just what was going on in general, okay? But before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I am your homeboy first, and this is the realest, most entertaining show in the game. Put it on something again. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button, y'all. Put all of your people on it. Okay. But let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into this. All right. Y'all know here on Realist History, I use these slides prepared by numerous historians. These slides used to accompany the book that I used to teach out of, okay? So if you disagree with the facts that these professors lay out, blame it on them, not your homeboy first. All I do is deliver the word to you. You feel me? All right, let's go. This week, we're going to analyze progressives' attitudes toward minority rights, explain why African Americans organized, and examine the strategies, used by members of other minority groups to defend their rights. All right, let me get this banner down for you. All right, let's get it, y'all. Let's look at some of the terms of people we're going to be going over. All right, it says Americanization. That was an effort to replace immigrant customs with white, Protestant, middle-class practices and values. Booker T. Washington, who we've talked about previously, favored a gradualist approach for blacks to earn rights through economic progress and employment in the skilled trades. W.B. Du Bois, I think we talked about him as well previously. He demanded immediate and full rights for blacks as guaranteed by the Constitution. All right. The Niagara movement opposed Washington's approach. Okay. So there's W.B. Du Bois, he was down with the Niagara movement. Okay. So, the old boy had some smoke with one another, but, we'll talk about that again when we get there. But the Niagara movement opposed Washington's approach, favored education in history, literature, and philosophy, not just in the trades. The NAACP was and is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and they viewed full legal rights as the only solution to racial discrimination. The Urban League, an organization to assist working class African Americans with relief, jobs, clothing, and schools. Okay. The Anti-Defamation League, an organization to defend Jews and others from false statements and verbal or physical attacks. And Mutualistas, Mexican American groups that provided loans, legal assistance, and disability insurance for members. All right. So our overall question is, what steps did minorities take to combat social problems and discrimination? All right. So it reads, prejudice and discrimination continued even during the progressive era. Minorities, including African Americans, Latinos, Catholics, Jews, and Native Americans, worked to help themselves. Their efforts paved the way for the era of civil rights several decades later. So this is very important shit, y'all, because you don't get what you got from the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s without these dope ass motherfuckers from the past standing up and really giving them something to look to and say, okay, we can build on what they did during the progressive era. We might want to do this differently. You feel me? A lot of people forget about these forerunners, and we don't want to do that. You know what I'm talking about? So let's get into it. All right. Most progressives were white, middle-class Protestants who held the racial and ethnic prejudices common in that era. AKA, folks were mainly racist, and so were the progressives. Okay, let's continue. They envisioned a model America based on Protestant ethics and a white middle-class lifestyle. As a result, they were often hostile to minority or immigrant cultures. Progressives believed assimilation would turn immigrants into loyal and moral citizens. The results were well-intentioned, but often insensitive or racist efforts to change the immigrants. While teaching English, they also advised immigrants to replace their customs with middle-class practices and Protestant values. Again, white middle-class practices and Protestant values, that is. Okay. Settlement houses and other civic groups played a prominent role in Americanization efforts. Okay. You got to play make believe now. Okay. You got to take yourself out of today's mindset and what you be hearing about liberals of today and progressives of today. You feel me? The progressives of the past share with the progressives of today that they wanted bigger government. They wanted government to be more active. They wanted more regulation. They wanted heavier taxing on the rich. A lot of same shit. But when it comes to this racist bullshit, like you could consider yourself a progressive back then and still be racist as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Because you would want industry to be regulated so you can protect the white family, the white customers. You feel me? You want an industry to be regulated, and you wanted wages to go up to help white working class people. You feel me? Like, so the shit was race, and take race out of it. You even had the ethnic part in it. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the immigrants they're talking about at this time are white people coming from Southern Europe, coming from Eastern Europe. These white people coming over here. You feel me? And these motherfuckers coming in over here with their own languages and their own customs and their own culture. And these Protestant whites over here, they saying, hold on, dog. You ain't leave that shit on that fucking boat. You come over here, you need to speak English, you need to act like us. You know what I'm saying? So they wanted them to blend in with the majority group. And that was, in their eyes, them becoming more Americanized. You feel me? Let's go. All right. Progressives saw many immigrant customs as moral failures. Immigrant use of alcohol, such as the serving of wine with meals, alarmed some people. This prejudice against immigrant customs and culture gave strength to the temperance movement. Now, y'all know some cultures, shit, they let their kids drink with them. You know what I'm saying? But here in America, that's taboo. That's like you don't do no shit like that. So for them to see anything from these immigrants that was counter to the traditional American culture that white Americans, particularly Anglo-Saxons had created, oh, they ain't like that shit. You got to change that out. You know what I'm saying? No, now we talked about the temperance movement last week. You know, the movement to ban alcohol, which was successful. And I told y'all that a lot of it had to do with religious shit, and a lot of women supported it because of how men would treat them when they were under the influence, all that kind of stuff. But you also had this little anti-immigrant tinge to it as well, since these immigrants had a different view of alcohol than the traditional Protestant white Americans at that time. All right, let's go. All right, racial theories were also used to justify laws that kept blacks from voting. Many progressives supported racial prejudices. The Plessy versus Ferguson decision furthered discrimination in the North as well as the South. We talked about Plessy previously. Make sure you go and rewatch that episode if you forgot about that horrible Supreme Court decision. All right. By 1910, segregation was the norm nationwide. In 1914, even federal offices were segregated by progressive president Woodrow Wilson. Okay, now for all my real ones that are from Jackson or the Jackson area, you know a very prominent street in Jackson is named after Woodrow Wilson. Why? That motherfucker was popular here. You know what I'm saying? He was a progressive president, so he wanted to help the little guy, but that was particularly the little white guy. You understand? Because he was flaming racist. And if somebody wants some evidence of that from you, there it is. There again, and these slides are written by historians. Okay, there it is. Let's go. All right, African Americans were split over how to end racial discrimination. Booker T. Washington urged a patient, gradual effort based on earning equality through training and work in the skilled trades. Meanwhile, W.B. Du Bois demanded that African Americans receive all constitutional rights immediately. Okay, so we've talked about these two brothers before, and I've asked y'all previously, who would you have been down with if you were alive at this time? Whose way of thinking would you have shared? Okay, now remember though, Booker T. Washington's way of doing things was more conservative, and they're more the white folk could deal with Booker T before they deal with WB. So WB Du Bois's way of thinking is more dangerous. So I want y'all to consider that when you're making your decision on who you would have been down with. You feel me? Let's go. All right. In 1905, Du Bois and William Monroe Trotter were concerned that all across the South, Black men could not vote. The Niagara movement rejected the gradualist approach, stating that trade skills, quote unquote, create workers, but cannot make men. They also believed African Americans should learn how to think for themselves through the study of history, literature, and philosophy. So again, you see the difference between Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. You know what I'm talking about? Booker T is thinking that, both of them think we got to get educated as Black people, but Booker T was more focused on, trades and shit, practical learning and practical jobs. He was thinking that it was kind of far-fetched to think we were going to go from slavery to being these big-time doctors and lawyers and business owners and all that shit. He thought that was going to take some time. While W.B. Du Bois was like, man, fuck that shit. These motherfuckers say we supposed to be free, goddamn it, we free. Now, and then their upbringing was also different. Let me go back. Okay. Their upbringing was also different. Booker T was born into slavery. W.B. Du Bois was not born into slavery. You feel me? So you can say that their upbringing kind of shaped their approaches. You can argue that, you feel me? But I still wonder who you would have been down with. Let's go. After 1908 riot against African Americans in Springfield, Illinois, that's not the South, y'all, Springfield, Illinois, a number of white progressives joined together with the Niagara movement to help form the NAACP. Okay. The NAACP, or National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, was founded to demand voting and civil rights for African Americans. The NAACP aimed to help African Americans become, quote unquote, physically free from peonage, which is basically like debt slavery, mentally free from ignorance, politically free from disfranchisement, meaning not having your right to vote, and socially free from insult. Okay. And y'all know that the NAACP still exists today. I would argue, and it really shouldn't be an argument, that this is the most notable civil rights organization in history. Maybe, safe to say. Okay. Top 5 got to be, but I'm gonna say that they the GOAT. You feel me? For how long they've been around and all the landmark shit they've been a part of, you gotta say it's them. You feel me? All right. The NAACP attracted prominent progressives to their cause. Supporters: Jane Addams. Remember, we talked about Jane Addams with the Settlement House movement. Ray Stannard Baker, Florence Kelly, and Ida B. Wells. Shout out to the Queen from Holly Springs, Mississippi. Okay. Their tactics: they used their newspapers to publicize the horrors of race riots and lynchings, used the courts to challenge unfair housing laws, and promoted professional careers for African Americans. Now, another notable thing that some people actually don't like is that the NAACP was founded in part by white people. Some people didn't like that white people had a role in a Black organization. Some people felt like the white people within the NAACP were too conservative and they were holding the organization back, or holding the Black movement back. You know what I'm saying? You got to figure out what you believe. Let's go. In 1911, the Urban League was formed to create a network of local clubs and churches to assist African Americans migrating to northern cities. While the NAACP focused on political justice, the Urban League helped the poor find jobs, housing, clothing, and schools for their children. So the Urban League, you got urban in the word. I mean, in the term, okay? Urban meaning city. So the black folks, especially those who fled the South and shit, going to these northern cities, hell, you gotta think about it. And I had to check myself on this. I wondered, goddamn, why have we just not left this bitch? You know what I'm saying? Like you know, some of these immigrants who come here, whether it's the white man, whether it be Latinos, you know, they fled persecution and fucked up shit in their previous countries. Like, damn, why the fuck we keep staying here? You know, well, one is these people are coming here for the jobs. This is the richest country on earth. So we would be leaving the place that got the most jobs. You know what I'm talking about? If we did that. But also too, we did leave. Like us black people leaving the South and going to all these different places, Chicago and Detroit and New York, and some all the way out to LA and all that kind of shit. Bruh, that's very similar to the Mexicans crossing that border and coming over here. You know what I'm saying? Like leaving the South and going to some of these other places was a tremendous change for a lot of our ancestors. You feel me? So when they got up to these places, hell, they might not know anybody and might not know how to handle themselves in this big ass city. And what the fuck am I gonna do? Where my kids gonna go to school? Where am I gonna work? You know, so the Urban League can help you with that. You feel me? Let's go. Many ethnic groups form self-help organizations to combat prejudice and protect their rights. Okay, so again, we talked about for black people, the NAACP. For Jews, it was B'nai B'rith. For Mexican Americans, it was Mutualistas. And for Native Americans, they had Society of American Indians. All right. Let's talk more about what the Jews did. In 1843, Jewish families formed the B'nai B'rith to provide religious education and self-help. In 1913, the Anti-Defamation League was formed to defend against physical and verbal attacks, false statements, and to secure justice and fair treatment for all citizens alike. And y'all have probably heard of the Anti-Defamation League. You might just see it on social media and they say ADL. You know, if it's some big controversy, you might see them comment on it and shit like that. You know what I'm talking about? All right, let's go to Mexican Americans. Mexican Americans formed mutualistas, groups that provided legal assistance and disability insurance. The Partido Liberal Mexicano in Arizona served a role similar to the Urban League for Mexican Americans. Many Latinos were subject to unfair labor contracts, which the mutualistas helped to defeat. Okay. Despite organized protests, Native Americans and Japanese lost their ownership of land. In 1911, Carlos Montezuma helped form the Society of American Indians to protest federal policy. Nevertheless, by 1932, 2/3 of all tribal lands had been sold off. In 1913, California restricted land ownership to American citizens only, which excluded the Japanese, who were not allowed to become citizens. In a 1922 decision, the Supreme Court allowed the limitation. So as you can see, if you were non-white in America during the Progressive era, you were catching hell. Catching hell. You feel me? Hell, if you were white and an immigrant, you were catching hell. Especially if you're trying to hold on to your customs from wherever the hell you were coming from. Your ass better blend in real quick or you finna catch some hell too. You feel me? Maybe not as much as black folks or Latinos or Native Americans or Asian, but you're gonna catch some hell. And you also saw that these various groups banded together to fight back against all this shit. You feel me? All right, so we got done with another one. All right, let's go back and just review some of the key terms and people that we covered. We talked about Americanization, which was just the effort to make these immigrants come over here and be more like middle-class Protestant white folks. Okay, that's all Americanization was. All right, Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois, we talked about them having two opposing viewpoints on how to fight against discrimination against black people. Booker T being more of a gradualist, want to take that shit slowly, wanting black people to learn trades and shit. You know, to my hey, let's not forget that he founded my mother's beloved Tuskegee. You feel me? Long live my mother. You understand? And W.B. Du Bois, he thought that we didn't need a goddamn gradual approach. He thought that black people needed their motherfucking rights right now. You feel me? And he is one of the founders of the NAACP. And he was also in the Niagara movement, okay? We talked about this movement favoring education and history, literature, philosophy, not just wanting to focus on trades and all that kind of shit. You know, again, basically this was W.B. Du Bois's way of thinking, okay? NAACP, we said that stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. They're still around today and they're still fighting the good fight. All right, the Urban League, an organization to assist working class African Americans, particularly in the northern cities. We talked about the Anti-Defamation League, which is basically a civil rights organization for Jewish people, and Mutualistas, all right, which says Mexican American groups basically banding together to help one another. You know, with all the shit they were going through. You need a loan, need some legal assistance, need some disability insurance. We got you, because we know that America didn't at that time. You feel me? All right, y'all. So we knocked out another one. So happy for those of you, those few who choose to view these realist history segments. Every time I do these, I know I'm not going to get that many views. I know that people want to be entertained and shit. You know what I'm talking about? People don't come to me particularly for this. But hey, from a former award-winning U.S. history teacher, I have this knowledge. I have these resources. So goddamn it, I'm going to use them, because obviously our country is in dire need of real education. So I'm happy to do that here on the realest, most entertaining show in the game. Put it on something. You watch the content, you enjoy the content. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, go ahead and become a channel member so you can get exclusive content and a free statement tee shared only with the realest ones.